Jimmy Allen right there with Freedom Was a Highway on 95.7 WCRC All-American True Country. Eric Fry here, joined by Dr. Jennings from St. Anthony Memorial Hospital. Good morning, doctor. How are you?
Hey, good morning. I'm great.
Good. Glad you're here with us. Hate that we are still talking about this COVID-19, but unfortunately, we still are.
Yeah, we are. We were talking before the show started here a little bit that I sure wish I had a new topic to be hanging out on the radio to have a little more fun with. But unfortunately, I think everybody has heard and seen our neighbors to our west in Missouri and Arkansas especially have enormous concerns around COVID. And unfortunately, we're starting to see that uptick with recent announcements in Effingham County. And as I look across our health system, quite a bit of an uptick to the west in the Metro East area. Not necessarily patients from there, but of course they get hospitalized there, and so more hospitalizations, those types of things. So very concerning that this has an opportunity for us to hit a surge again.
And what we're talking about is, and correct me if I'm wrong, it's the Delta variant, correct?
It is the Delta variant. So, a lot of questions about what that's really about. And I mean, when you think about a virus, the virus enters the body and it basically turns your body into a factory to replicate itself. And like any factory, whether you're making widgets or whatever, every so often it accidentally makes one that's one-off. Well, just like in a factory, sometimes that one-off is useless and doesn't really amount to anything. Sometimes that one-off, somebody goes, wait a minute, that's actually better, faster, stronger.
Right.
And in this particular case, the Delta variant, when it mutated, or when the virus mutated to the Delta variant, it actually is more infectious. Fortunately, the jury's still a little out on whether or not it's more deadly. It's a little hard to sort out simply because the population that's being infected with it is much younger, and that really gets to the heart of the matter, which is we're very lucky that our elderly population is vaccinated, and vaccinated at pretty high levels, almost statewide. Even in Effingham County, right. Folks have vaccinated up over 70% in that population. And so we're not seeing it there. Now we're seeing the 20, 30, 40-year-olds. And unfortunately, we're seeing those in the hospital and they're sick. So it's really it's more of the same, but I think it just speaks to the fact that the vaccine is clearly effective.
Now, what do you do, or what would you suggest those 20, 30, 40-year-olds you were talking about who this virus right now seems to be attacking more of? How can they combat this? How can they help?
Well, number one is go ahead and get vaccinated. I know there's a lot of discussion about whether or not, how serious the illness is in the younger population. And that's real. I mean, you're healthier to begin with.
Right.
But boy, there's nothing worse than a healthy 20, 30-year-old that ends up severely ill or dies or ends up, needing months and months of recovery. And I'm sure that you don't have to ask very many of your friends and colleagues, and you'll find somebody that's got a friend that was completely healthy who, really took a hard hit with this stuff. It is not minor. So number one is definitely get vaccinated. The masking debate rages on. They clearly work. And when you're in an unvaccinated area, and certainly when you're close to folks, within that 6-foot distance or so, it's definitely a good idea, and still trying to be mindful of crowds. But we could do away with an awful lot of that stuff with vaccine penetration, because when you look at the map of where this thing's going, before it came over on an airplane, it landed in the bigger cities,
right.
And then it spread from the bigger cities. Now we're just seeing it pop up basically in accordance with where folks aren't vaccinated. And
Gotcha.
Boom, there it is. And unfortunately, it's about maybe 3 times more infectious than the original virus, so the spread's very rapid.
And if you had COVID, this variant is different, so you can still catch it even if you had COVID, correct?
That's very correct. In fact, we're seeing a lot of what are being called breakthrough infections, both from native COVID, meaning you had COVID. I had COVID last October, and then I was also vaccinated earlier this year.
Right.
So, but we're seeing folks that definitely had COVID in the earlier and are breaking through with this variant. And we've seen a handful of vaccinated people that are testing positive, but fortunately, the likelihood of hospitalization post-vaccination is about as close to zero as you get. You're talking 1 in tens of thousands. Okay. So you do see post-vaccine people in the hospital, but usually it's because they're not a very healthy person, and then when you weigh in the fact that there were tens of thousands of other people that aren't, that's not really a surprise. Right. It certainly gives conversation pieces to saying the vaccine's not effective, but that's really not the case at all. It's very much just a fact that a very very, very rare scenario where we end up with folks in the hospital.
And are the symptoms the same for this new variant that we're dealing with as original COVID?
Very similar. The one thing that seems to be a little bit different is folks are describing more nasal congestion with this one. The first one, as you recall, lots of folks lost their sense of smell and taste, and you're still seeing that, but they didn't complain that they were congested. It's like, I can breathe fine and I can't smell. And this particular one, it seems like there's a little more nasal congestion, runny nose. Of course, that's hard to sort out with everything in the air right now. But similar to before, you really worry when you're sick with it. Those minor symptoms are minor, but certainly if you're getting significantly ill, short of breath, chest discomfort, you need to be seen. And, we still have all of our processes in place to provide safe care for folks that are symptomatic.
I was going to say, if people are symptomatic, come to the hospital and they can be taken care of there.
They absolutely can, and we still, again, have kept our processes in place to make sure that we keep others safe, because obviously we still have to recognize that this virus does spread, and we need to make sure that we're safe even when you're in our care.
And Doctor, thank you so much for joining me here today, and hopefully we can kind of curb this, and maybe next time we talk, we can talk about something a little more fun.
Oh gosh, I hope so. The Labor Day party's coming, and
it's coming,
and it's on the books. Barring us getting back into this unfortunate situation again. So get vaccinated so you can come to my Labor Day party.
That's a great idea.
That's the best reason of all.
All right. Thank you,
Dr.
Dr.
I sure appreciate
Jennings.
it, sir, and thank you for WCRC for getting us on.